2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. People who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so by finding the meeting at www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. First item on the agenda is a discussion item, which is Master Plan Committee update.
Thank you,
Mrs.
Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Luttrell.
The Master Plan Committee met on December 8th, and we reviewed in depth the drafts of the Open Space, Natural Resources and Recreation Chapter, Circulation and Transportation, and Housing. Our next meeting is January 12th, where we're going, our homework for that meeting is the Economic Development, Community, Historic and Cultural Resources, Land Use and Zoning in the Vision chapter. And then after that, we'll only have 2 chapters left, the public facilities in schools. So prior to our next planning board meeting, I'll upload all those draft chapters on the planning board Dropbox. And we 2 meetings ago started working on the implementation plan, so I'll upload that too, so everyone can see it, and feel free to offer any comments. Thank you.
Wonderful. Any questions or comments? You won't know what to do with yourself, Mimi, after the next 2 chapters. Okay.
I'll find something.
Oh, that we know. Next item on the agenda. Well, at 7:05.
Dawn, I could point out, I don't know if you want to do it individually, but Andrew Mills filed Mullins forms for the public hearings that he missed on November 15th. And that was for 325 Turnpike, 200 Turnpike, and 1 Pine Hill Drive.
Okay. It's now on the record that you have done that, Mr. Mills.
Yes.
So the next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing, 325 Turnpike Road. Ken's Foods expansion, major site plan approval. This hearing is continued from September 27th, October 18th, November 15th. And also continued public hearing for 325 Turnpike Road, Ken's Foods expansion, special permit for lower impact development. Also continued from September 27th, October 18th, and November 15th. This has become one of the most complex public hearings that we've had in a while. We'll ask the town planner to start us off. Who from Ken's is on board?
We have Jim Bourne in the attendees. We should have Scott Doty at the bottom, and
Yep.
Attorney William Pizzoni.
Yep.
Okay, Karina,
Those are on the right.
let's start off by you updating us and the public on what's happened since we last were in the hearing.
Sure. So at the last hearing, there was an extension request granted to continue the public hearings for the major site plan and LID to this evening, December 13th, 2021 planning board meeting, as well as extend the planning board's action deadline to December 17th, typically the 4 days after the continued hearing, in case there's a need to have a few extra days. Conservation Commission met, I believe, on November 28th They were continued to this last Thursday. On November 30th, I received a complete submission number 2 for the project, plans dated November 22nd, 2021, and a stormwater report dated 11/23/21. The submission was filed with Fuss and O'Neill on the 6th of December. I sent the submission to the planning board and the town departments at the same time. I received comments back from the police chief, Ken Paulos, regarding a question on the noise issue. And then I also received some comments from the Board of Health regarding the septic system and any impacts that this current project might have on the system. On December 9th, the Conservation Commission met again and had their public hearings for notice of intent and stormwater management permit continued. I failed to mention back in November 15th, right after the public hearing, I received an email from Attorney William Pizzoni addressing various issues, clarifications from the prior public hearing and questions. I also received an email from a butter, Debbie DeMoria from 58 Flag Road on November 22nd in regards to the permit and requesting that the board deny the permit. Then I also received an email from Attorney Pizzoni on December 9th responding to, I believe, that email from Ms. DeMoria, the abutter. I'm awaiting Fuss and O'Neill review comments probably later this week, later than sooner, but before the end of the week, which I'll forward to the applicant team as soon as it comes in. And that brings us to tonight's meeting. I just want to make you aware there is a extension request form ready if the applicant so requests to continue the meeting to January 10th, 2022, which is the next scheduled planning board meeting, should we need to continue, and also extend the action deadline to January 28th for the planning board to have time to act on the application, because the deadline right now is December 17th. And that brings us up to date. That's it, Don.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We need to know this for scheduling purposes tonight. Is it Ken's intention to request an extension of the approval period tonight?
Yeah, I mean, after we have some discussion tonight, we'll be happy to extend that. We know that you don't have Fuss and O'Neill's comments yet, and we're going to have to extend. We're still wrapping things up with conservation. We understand that, but we would like to at least have an opportunity tonight to have some discussion with you.
Very good. I'll turn it over to, unless there's any objection from the board, I'll turn it over to Ken's, whoever's going to speak right now.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Doty from John Crow Associates. Also with us is Jim Bourne from Ken Foods, also at the hearing tonight. I'd like to go through briefly and summarize the items that have been modified or addressed on the plans in a general fashion. I know you're getting more, you'll get specific information from Fuss and O'Neill. But and the plans submitted in late October and then resubmitted again in November. We have been able to incorporate two major LID factors into the practices into the project plans. One being and I'm going to share a screen if I could. Project plans, nothing new. Oh,
You should be all set to
yeah.
share.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So I just okay this and then try it again.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I guess I got to hit two buttons. There we go.
There we go.
Good, thank you. This is a part of the site plan set. This is the construction site plan. But two elements have been incorporated into the site to reduce stormwater volume and to improve the environmental aspects of the site. One of them is a level spreader drainage structure, which is south of the building expansion, which is here. This is the main existing building. Route 9 east and west is below, on the bottom of the sheet, and north is to the top of this sheet, just to orient you. Also incorporated into is the emergency driveway that needed to be relocated around the addition will be constructed, and as will the pavements coming from the emergency egress doors from the building be made out of porous asphalt pavement, which will then allow the rainfall to mimic the natural course of drainage infiltrating into soil, stormwater, that is. We've also included a new up-to-date, what we call an operations inspection and maintenance plan. That's so we could bring together both the requirements for the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board into one document that for Ken's Foods. So that's been modified to incorporate the new BMPs and lower impact development practices. Also with I want to go back to that set of plans. Part of the changes that have been made has been the creation of a arborvitae planting near the island at the west side of the site between the truck yard area and Route 9, that to mitigate or compensate for the loss of the arborvitae line that's going to be relocated. It's going to be dislocated by the expansion. Another element that's we've been able to catch up on is the earthwork estimate for the project site. Now that the foundation system has been determined to be a shallow impact in terms of excavation on the site, and they're going to be basically a stone piling type of system that the building's going to be built upon, allowed us to focus in and refine the earthwork estimate that's been provided. Fuss O'Neill is reviewing that. You can see from this image here that there's quite a bit of fill around to support the new slab on grade, and a little bit of cut here and there, some of the mounds that are where they're going to be displaced by the building, and also a little bit of excavation. But for the most part, the project is going to be a fill project. We have we've offered the refined list of waivers for the project, including the parking or renewal of the parking waiver for 81 spaces on the site to serve the building with no need to increase the parking, with the option, if the planning board wants to, the consultant may have mistook the 9 parking spaces that were for, well, not really truck cab spaces as parking spaces. But we'd welcome either the modification to retain the 81 or to make that number 90 if those parking spaces should count as vehicular spaces, though they are really set up for cabs, trailer cabs, and with block heaters and such.
Scott, can you just point to those on the screen?
Sure.
The 9 spaces.
Yeah, let me go to the
Thanks.
overall site, sure. This is the overall site, and the spaces we're talking about are on the west edge right here, and I'll zoom in on them, Karina. Let me zoom in. Oh, wrong way. Wrong button. Just one more, I think could be good. These are 9, I guess we'd call them oversized spaces here. They are set up for cabs without trailers. Let me go in a little bit more. You can see it a bit better. These spaces right here are the spaces I think that the Fuss and O'Neill reviewer might have been thinking are parking spaces. You can see they're a bit different than the 20 or 21 that are here, that are in place for the truck drivers and as such. So those are the spaces there. Do you have another question on that, Karina? Are you good?
Oh, no, that's good. I just wasn't sure where that was.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, understood. Another aspect that has changed that I brought up last time that we met was that we did an overall as-built for the entire site, an as-built survey. And in fact, it's been incorporated as the existing conditions on this set of plans. In review of that, we discovered that there was a control outlet problem with the control outlet. It's here. This is the driveway down to Route 9. Route 9 is off of this little snippet. This is the southwest corner of the building. This is the south lawn area right here. The west truck dock up here, but this is zoomed in to focus in on these control outlet devices. This outlet device, the one in place that was part of the prior project, was constructed at the wrong elevation. And the solution that we've come up with that Fuss and O'Neill is reviewing now is to put in place 2 new control structures near the 2 underground detention systems. This is the underground detention system right here, associated with underneath the south lawn area. South of the building, there's another one that's just getting the south edge of it here, but it's underneath the truck yard and loading yard. And so this is the second control structure. They'll utilize the pipes in place that would then go to the ordinary course, to the ordinary outfall that was been in place for decades. Another aspect that was discovered in the as-built was some of the pipes were not at the right slopes and right elevations, and we've provided a outline of a condition for the board to consider that would allow for an in-depth evaluation of those pipes once these systems are built and operating correctly. Associated with the proposed condition for the outlet control structures is a requirement to have these built as soon as possible to get the existing conditions in place properly, so the rest of the drainage system pipes can be assessed with a proper operating system. That, and besides the stormwater system has been totally rerun the hydrology, and Fuss O'Neill's evaluating that also. That's been in that submittal package. But those are the items briefly. Be happy to go into any more detail on any of them, but I thought that the planning board would like to have sort of a general overview of where those items are. Related to some of the Conservation Commission business, with some of it sort of is also in play with the same kind of permitting aspects as the LID, that being environmental protection and protection of water resources as such. We have proposed conditions to the Conservation Commission for closure of their prior permits associated with the remedial work on these control outlet structures, and the remedial work, of course, on the plantings that are associated with their orders of conditions. Just because I know that those issues of plantings have been discussed by the planning board members and the town planner also. Those are the items briefly.
Scott, if you could, Mr. Chairman, I mean, you reiterated the things that we found and we're going to be correcting that weren't part of the original site plan submittal, and that they're being completed based on the prior site plan to make sure it was done correctly. Can you just run over the addition that's being put on and the changes that are taking place in that area? Because there are no other changes taking place on the site relative to circulation or access or anything like that.
Certainly. Let's see here. Do you see my plan screen? I know.
We see your desktop.
Yep. Okay. You saw my desktop. Okay. Thank you. Let me get this.
Nice view.
All right. Screen 2. There we go. I'll go to the construction plan. And again, I have to go back out and zoom out here. Yeah, to give a sort of summary, and I know because it's been a number of weeks since we went over it. This is the building proper here, the existing building. And the addition is on, of course, the southeast corner, 62,500 square foot addition. I know this is reiteration for some of you. And so the project entails the construction going out, pushing out the portion of this eastern wall out for the expansion. There's an existing emergency driveway that runs on the east side of the building. It needs to be relocated along with the fire protection water system in that area. The roof drainage we talked about, portion of it goes to the level spreaders here that take advantage of the large grassed area for infiltration and treatment prior to it reaching groundwater or surface water for that matter. But the majority of the roof is collected and connected to an expansion of the existing underground detention infiltration system in the area south of the building. With the exception of some other, that's pretty much the project. There's some additional planting, as can be seen on the planting plan in the front on the south side of the building. And of course, the proposal and as conditions is to replace and replant as needed the bioretention area that's up here in the northeast corner of the project near the existing parking lot. The parking lot has a little bit of work associated with it. Relocation of 4 spaces are necessary, but we're not increasing the number of spaces there. No need to, because the number of employees is staying the same. In fact, there's a small reduction in pavement in this area with this reconfiguration. The project also involves go to the planting here. Plan. Excuse me if my computer's moving a little too slow. Sorry if I seem a little bit out of it. I am also not well right now. This is the sediment erosion control plan. Excuse me. There we go. There's the planting plan. So the plan still involves will incorporate the relocation and slight enlargement of the wildflower mix area, which would be a wet wildflower mix in this area, since it's closer to the wetland now. That's a requirement that we committed to during the modification a few years back. But the seed mix there is that which is required by the Open Space Preservation Commission. These are the arborvitae I talked about earlier. And this is the area, of course, where plantings will need to be redone. There's some dead plants there. There are some that are surviving. There are others that are doing quite well, actually. So that area would be reconstructed in accordance with the original order of conditions plan, which was reflected on the LID plan, the original LID plan also. During the construction period, which is, of course, also important, we've provided the contractor with a set of tools to protect the wetlands and the water resources to the east, including areas potentially for dewatering, temporary dewatering facility if necessary here, pond berming, and another sediment capture swale if necessary. Frankly, we designed these aspects into the project when we thought perhaps we'd have a more extensive excavation program with traditional foundations and footings. And that's no longer the case. It's going to be a shallow excavation and a stone piling system, tap system that the building's going to be built upon. So there's not going to be a need for major excavation besides removal of topsoil and in this area. That's it. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions. I hope I wasn't just talking to myself. I could do that for a while. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, please.
Thank you. And I understand that Freddie from the Open Space did send an email today to Karina and us where she'll get a draft out to us after her last site walk. And I believe she said there may be some tweaks that really shouldn't impact the applicant that much. So once we see that, we will attempt to incorporate that into the plan as well in trying to facilitate and handle the things that she would like as well. Other than that, the police chief had filed a response relative to the fact that he really hadn't heard any issues relative to sound. I mean, you guys have the email. You can look at it other than those originally back in 2019 and 20. And he had thought all of those issues had resolved as well. I don't want to reiterate everything I put in my letter or my prior memo. I think you're all well capable of reading that. And I guess it would be best if we just turn it over to you for any questions you may have as a board at this point to help point us in the right direction so that we can prepare once we get Fuss and O'Neill's comments as well. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the update, engineering wise and administratively. So we're waiting for the report back from Fuss and O'Neill. And we're also anticipating at some point in the near future, a resolution from the Conservation Commission. There was one thing in the Conservation Commission notes that we've seen as a potential showstopper, which is the permission to do work in the riverfront zone. So we'll be watching that. I have one question and then I'll open it up to the board. Is it Ken's position, based on previous permits and the status that we're in right now, is it Ken's position that the truck loading area, which as I understand it, all of the trailers are now outside, is it Ken's position that those do not have to be covered?
Yes. You mean all the trucks that are parked out there or up against the loading docks? Because on the loading docks, there's a 10-foot overhang that if you might remember, Mr. Morris, because you were on the board back then when we went through the prior plans, that the issue out and back was the fact that one of those loading docks out back there was flush, and the neighbors could hear the noise of, things clanging, doors clanging, trucks backing up, people loading, everything. And what we did was we committed to put that overhang and then tuck them back in on the front side to accommodate that. And at that point, it was looked at by your board as well as the building inspector that they had complied with the regulation at the time, which hasn't changed since then. So yes, it's Ken's position that those have been constructed properly, and the fact that we are parking trucks out in the driveway, that most of that's interstate commerce. So that's federally under federal control. Any truck that pulls in there and circulates and fills up and leaves, once it's moving, it's under federal control.
I'll open it up to the board. Mrs. Luttrell.
That was unexpected. On the plans, could you show me where bay doors B, C, D, and E are?
Let's see, am I muted? No, I'm not. Okay, good.
I don't think those exist anymore.
Yeah.
There's only the one bank of bays on that west wall. That was the idea. We would eliminate all the other bays originally and move them all to that west side. And that would be where we would have all the bays.
Shared the wrong screen, sorry. Got the site plan there, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I heard a part of Attorney Pizzoni's answer. I only know the 1 through 26 here. I don't know if this area was called A and this area was called B or C. I'm sorry. Do you need me to illustrate anything here, Bill?
I can just point it out that there used to be a bay on the, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, on the northwest corner up on the top up there.
Up here. Yep. There was a small bay over here. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of
And
these,
then
yep.
in the back further, along the back wall, there were several bays built in there as well.
That was
That's
right
what-
here. If you can see my cursor, it was right here.
Correct.
Yeah, and actually one more a little further down.
Yeah, there might have been something in this area here.
Correct.
Of course, that area, those were closed, and this is all now vegetated grass area.
So what were those referred to?
What
So in the 2014 special permit,
yeah.
the bays were referred to as B, C, D, E, and F. And
That was because they were scattered all around the building. So we had to label them so people could identify which ones were which. I couldn't tell you which ones were A, B, C, and D now, unless I look back on an old plan. But they all used to be along that north side and the northwest corner, with several where they are located now. We just relocated all of them to where they are in that Bay Area now.
do you have a copy of the plan referred to in that decision?
Well, we have that, yes.
Yeah,
Could I
we
get
can
a copy of that?
Yeah, we can get that to you. It's not before the board right now, but you're welcome to have it. And there actually should be a copy of it in your file at the town. But Scott, you can get that to her, correct?
Yes, I mean, if people had patience, I could call it up now, but it would take me a minute or two to get to it. I could do it while we're discussing other things if you'd like.
Okay, all right. So I'm trying to untangle all these permits and site plans and everything to figure out where we are and where we're going, which is why I ask, because it referred to these by alphabetically and I have no idea what they're talking about. So as far as the noise, although the police chief said that he thinks it's been resolved, it hasn't been resolved. I think the neighbors just got tired of complaining and, nothing was happening. So when you received this special permit from the ZBA in this spring, it was stated that you would continue to take steps to address the noise issues. Could you outline the steps that you've taken since March of 2021 to address those issues?
I submitted a memo to you back in early November, which outlined the history of what's gone on at that site, but I'll recap it real quickly for you.
I just want since March of 2021, what steps have been taken?
March of 2021, we met out at the site with Deb, with building inspector, then met out at the site again. I believe Deb was at that first one. Then we met with the chairman of the board of the ZBA, another member of the board of the ZBA, and I think the sound experts were there as well. And we walked around. That was in July. Yeah, in July, after the hearing. We looked at the facility. No, that was in June. Then they approved it. We went out to the site with Deb's expert, with our expert, and walked the site. Even actually went up to her property as well. Determined and agreed that it was not. We didn't believe it was the refrigeration units, which is what they had always thought it was. And we agreed to provide her expert with all the data he wanted so that he could take a look at it and then come back to us with some proposals. When we were up at their site, up at Deb's site, when she identified the noise, it really was coming more from Route 9 than anywhere else. And that just might have been an anomaly, I don't know. But, she's only 870 feet from Route 9, where there's an elevated portion of Route 9 where trucks grind the gears going back and forth and up there. So that makes a lot of noise. But he was supposed to get back to us when we left that meeting in mid-July, knowing that we were coming before your board in September, so that we could work on this and try to come up with some alternatives. And we were looking for him to give us some ideas because when we talked on site, we actually asked him, well, sound wall's not really going to work because the sound's going to trajectory go over it because Deb's elevation is so high. The sound wall would have to be like 200 feet high, which is, ridiculous. And we talked about other types of things that might work. When we were up at the site, we talked about maybe she'd need some new tempered windows or something that would cut the sound, or some plantings up on her property. Because where we were down at the Ken site, there's so much vegetation between the Ken's parking lot, the Ken's property line, and then Deb's property line is over 2,000 feet of different types of trees, brush, and everything between there, that we couldn't figure out anything, and we were open to listening to them if they came back with something. We did not hear from them, and we did not hear from anybody until we came before you in September. And that was the first time I had heard anything from Deb on this, was at that hearing. And I happened to have our expert reach out to her expert the next day, wondering why he didn't get back to us. And he told us he hadn't been retained, and he was told not to do any further work on it back in July. So she then did retain him after that, and he did submit a report, which I just sent a kind of a response to it in my letter to Mr. Morris, dated December 9th, relative to the inaccuracy of some of his representations and his analogies. But that's what we've done. I mean, we're happy to still meet with her, meet with Board of Health, because that's purview that has jurisdiction over this, and even meet with DEP to try and figure it out. But nobody can tell us where the sound is coming from Ken's.
So according to her sound expert, the sound study that you had done didn't meet the ANSI standards and procedures to assess whether or not it met compliance with Mass DEP noise regulations. Has a
Okay,
study been done to meet that?
If I could, Ms. Luttrell, if you read my memo, that report was done by agreement of the parties, because the two neighbors that met on site with us and their expert thought it was the refrigeration units, and they wanted to focus on the refrigeration units. And that was because they did not hear noise of doors opening, of trucks backing up. It was some other type of low frequency noise, not the type of thing that you hear at the loading docks, or that you hear when trucks are screeching their brakes or they have those beepers on backing up, but some other type of low frequency noise. It was by agreement of everybody that that's what they would focus on. And that's what was focused on in that report. It was not a full-blown noise study. And at the time, if they wanted a full-blown noise study, we probably would have had to talk about who was going to handle all the costs of that. Ken's was willing to go forward if we could identify something, and they did. And they spent a considerable amount of money to create that report based on what everybody wanted him to focus on. Okay, and what he focused on did turn up that the low frequency sound is not coming from Ken's.
So, so I just find it strange that Dr. Demaria and Mr. Farrington have lived in that home for 25 years. I'm pretty sure that Route 9 and 495 have been there for all that time, and they didn't start having issues until 2019, and that's when the bays moved. So it just seems strange.
They did start having issues, but it was 18 months after Ken started operations. Traffic in those multiple years on Route 9 and 495 has increased dramatically, especially truck traffic at night. So I mean, there's a lot of things. I don't want to go back and forth.
So
I'm not a sound expert.
I'm not a sound expert, so I don't want to argue this, but I just think it's a huge problem, and there's something going on there, and you have a butters that I've seen the videos of walls shaking. I don't know how you can live like that.
I'm going
to move on from that from now. That's
right.
My position.
I just want to let you know, me that way I couldn't find the plan. I must have a paper copy in the file, and I thought I had it electronically. I don't.
Okay.
Mrs. Luttrell has the floor. Please let her speak.
Yep. Thank you. I'm sorry. I just want to let her know. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And so is it's Ken's position that the 10-foot overhang for those loading spaces are covered, are considered to be covered?
Yeah, and it was obviously the understanding of the planning board back when they granted that permit, because they couldn't have granted the permit if we didn't comply with the regulations at the time without granting a waiver if we needed one. And it was determined because of the way they were constructed and the fact that the building actually blocked 90% of the noise that was there going into three directions. And you have Route 9 on the other side, that it was sufficient and it worked properly and the overhang was correct.
In my opinion, those are not enclosed. 10-foot overhang isn't enclosed, and our bylaw clearly states they shall be enclosed if used frequently at night, which I think they definitely are used frequently at night.
If I could, the building inspector at the time and the current building inspector have reviewed them, and we were granted the permits and granted a construction permit. So, I mean, in all due respect, I understand what your position is, and I was just wanted to reiterate what others were at the time and today.
Well, so that was then, here we are now. On to landscaping. I think, Scott, you touched on this, that the landscaping hasn't been installed in compliance with the 2019 site plan, especially around the detention basin there. There's not the adequate number of shrubs and trees isn't there. So a lot that are there are dead. And some of the current wooded area is within the limit of work. Do you know what trees are there that may be damaged, and will they be protected during construction, or will they be replaced, or what's the plan there?
I don't believe we're in any wooded areas per se. We are in areas of where there is shrub sort of a edge to with the exception of course, that arborvitae run and the trees that are right there at that location. I guess your definition of wooded might be that, you know, the shrubbery that's there. We're only. Am I mistaken, or I'm sorry?
I'm just talking about the area on the plan. The little squiggly thing that is on the plan says it's a wooded area.
Yeah,
in some places the limit of work goes past that.
It does, and those are areas that are more shrubbery and a mix of vegetative elements. There might be some small trees in those areas, but where we're not changing grades, and there may be a tree, those would be protected. But I don't think there's anything there of substance per se. But we're only clearing what we need to for the project. And we do have the opportunity to protect trees that could be identified. I think that when we get the limit of work actually and the delineation by the erosion control, we'll have we can actually do some adjustments in the field as necessary to protect anything of substance that should be protected. I'd be happy to walk in with you and others on that to make the determination before that work starts.
And the stand of arborvitaes, are those being transplanted or?
No, they don't transplant well. I don't think the arborvitaes do. I think we're better off putting in a new bunch there.
Okay.
Quite frankly, yeah.
So when you put in
it's a good location for them. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Could they be native straight species and not a cultivar?
Yes, I believe.
The plant list lists a cultivar.
Does it? Okay, no. They should be a native or more natural, not a hybrid. Should be.
In the cypress on the plant schedule, are those being transplanted or are those new plants?
So many items. we have to, without, I'll look at the, I'm gonna refer to the plan. I don't necessarily need to share the screen unless, yeah. Sorry, I don't have the answer at the tip of my tongue.
Because I'm not sure what those are. So the Atlantic white cedar is a native. There are a bunch of cypress and a lot of them aren't native.
Yeah, we're using the false cypress here. And
I don't know what
those
that is.
those are new planted. There's three that are new and three that are being replanted.
Okay.
On the false cypress.
So the new ones, if you could use the native species on?
Yes.
And the viburnum, are those transplants or are those new?
The double files. They are new.
So those are native of Eastern Asia. So if we could get that closer to home.
Yeah, I maybe something more like arrowwood or something like that.
Yeah, there are a whole bunch of native viburnums.
We got these from, I thought we got these from the approved list. Be happy to make that change. Prefer it myself.
And what is the plan to plant a successful meadow, as the last one was not? What changes are being made so that we're guaranteed success this time?
Well, last time we had to, I think the big part of the problem last time was that we had to remove a newly seeded lawn area that it was really growing vigorously. And in this case here, of course, it is established lawn also, but it's wet. It's more wet and more apt to take and thrive than those that we had planted perhaps on those mounds. Also, Freddie's given us some guidelines and some better information on how she says she's going to provide us more information on how to make them much more successful than the one we had. I think there's a learning curve there for all of us.
Okay.
So,
and you have undisturbed open space listed on the plans.
Yes.
And open space is defined as permanently protected in our zoning code. Is that permanently protected?
No, I didn't understand that was what the table's looking for in the table as open space. That question did come up from the consultants also. Okay. And no, I understood it to be I didn't understand it to be permanently protected land. We don't have anything like that on the property.
Okay, so it needs a new name then.
Yeah, I think it's open space. I guess it's just open space and just be
or not open space, green space or something. Open space is defined in our code.
Okay, I'd be happy to make that change.
I think that's all I have for right now.
Full sync.
Thank you, Mrs. Luttrell. Are you ready, Mrs. Houlihan? Always ready.
So thank you, Mrs. Luttrell. I think a lot of similar comments that Mrs. Luttrell had brought up. As I mentioned prior to the meeting, I've been sick with COVID, so I have not had the ability to keep up with as much paperwork as possible. So I don't have as many questions today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Stein.
Karina, are there any abutters in the attendees?
Let me take a look. I believe we have Kevin Farrington. Trying to see. Kevin Farrington is the only one I recognize. Jack Bartolini, I believe he is across Route 9. And there's a Sam Dettori, but I don't recognize. I'm not. He may be with the.
He's with us. He's not part of our project team.
Oh, okay. So just Kevin Farrington. If there's anybody else who is in a butter, if they could raise their hand.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad Mr. Farrington's here. I would very much like to hear after Andrew and Don have their comments from Mr. Farrington on their position relative and in the context of what we've heard from the proponent this evening. It's really concerning to me. A couple things are concerning to me right now. With all due respect to our proponent and the proponent's counsel, it has been my experience on the planning board that when there is substantive change to a site and it's in front of us for review and approval, that we have the opportunity to recommend or require adjustments if it benefits the community. So the fact that this was permitted by a previous board or by a building inspector or some other independent body does not have much weight with me and my vote in this review. It's what's in front of us now and how it's impacting the community, especially the abutters. In terms of the noise situation, that has me very confused. So I need a lot more clarification and some common ground reach between the proponent and the abutters. Thank you.
Mr. Mills.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation and the update, Scott. Much appreciated. I'm not going to rehash anything else everyone's already talked about, but I do want to ask about one area. The 9 spots you said that for the trucks with the heating blocks, are those new or those existing?
Yeah, no, those were part of the prior project. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the heating blocks, are those already there? Do
Yes.
trucks sit there and idle?
No, I think they just keep the blocks warm when they're not running. My understanding.
Okay. That was my main question. Again, I don't want to rehash other things. I'm looking forward to see what Fuss and O'Neill comes back with, and appreciate the other board members' comments. Thank you, Mr. Morris.
So I said earlier that the type of open items with conservation have the potential, whether it's a great potential or a slight potential, they have the potential to cause changes to what you're proposing. So we're going to, as I said, we're going to keep an eye on that. And our next meeting is January 10th. Hopefully between now and then, you guys will be able to clear up with conservation and give the planning board kind of a green light to approve what's been designed and is being proposed without our concern that it could change because of requirements to comply with conservation. So that's one thing that we'd really like and may on January 10th, if not resolved, be open to ways to proceed, if at all, with some of those or any of those open items with conservation. Normally, we're on separate tracks, but again, the type of comments that are open have a potential to change this design. The other thing is, and I think, Bill, you're well aware of this, usually the boards have been advised over many decades that if a proponent has a lawyer in the room, then the board should have a lawyer in the room. And we've gone to this point respectfully listening to Ken's attorney. And there seems to be a lot of agreement with what he says. However, this the issue of the loading docks and the enclosures, I think, is of great concern. And the board members, at least myself, and I heard Mr. Stein say that it needs to be clarified further. So I'm going to ask the board if it's our desire to ask the town planner to submit a legal opinion request, or somehow and have our town council look over where we are relative to the previous permits and details of the site, and be properly advised so that when the board does take action, it's proper and can be sustained. So if that's the desire of the board, or if it's not the desire of the board, speak up now. Otherwise, we'll ask the town planner to submit a legal opinion request. Anybody objecting to that at this point? It's more for clarification. We're not at the point where we're banging heads or having a big problem yet, but hopefully, again, following the guidance that our boards have received over a lot of time, if the proponent has a lawyer, we should at least consider getting our lawyer involved. So that's what we'll do, and hopefully get some guidance between now and January 10th that we'll share with you if we can, and clear the path for getting us across the goal line. So let's open it up to the public. And then after that, we'll entertain or we'll hopefully hear a request for an extension of the approval period. So let's open it up to the public. Anyone from the public, questions or comments?
Yes, we have Kevin Barrington. Kevin, you should be all set to talk if you'd like.
Okay, hi, can you hear me? Yep.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out, if there's any question about the noise coming from Penn's, I have driven over there at 1 in the morning.
Kevin, we're having trouble hearing you. And if you could just
okay.
identify your address.
Oh, Kevin Farrington, 58 Flag Road.
Thank you.
I just want to let you know the noise is definitely coming from Ken's. It's in the evenings at night. So looking at 2 in the afternoon, we usually don't experience the noise at 2 in the afternoon. I've driven over there at 1 in the morning, parked along Route 9. It's not coming from any other business down there. It's clearly coming from the Ken's parking lot. It's from the trucks backed up against the docks, but it's also from trucks parked right where the new arborvitae will be. There's trucks sitting there idling. I don't know if the drivers are sleeping or what, but basically we've moved all this to the west side and turned it into a truck stop, and it is affecting neighbors other than ourselves. We've talked to neighbors down the street whose children have been complaining. They didn't know where the noise was coming from. They didn't know about the permitting process. It took us 6 months to know to even complain to the building commissioner. We did talk to the police chief. He told us there's nothing he can do because there's no noise bylaw. So we don't call the police. We can nightly if we need to, but it's kind of counterproductive at this point. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Can I ask Mr. Farrington a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Mr. Farrington, I'm just curious why we're not hearing from any other abutters. I know this is speculative on your part, but I would be curious to hear if you do have any idea why it just seems like, you're the lone voice in this. And, I personally do weigh abutters feedback heavily. But normally in these kind of situations, we hear from more than one party.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been actively trying to recruit people. We actually have neighbors that have mentioned us hearing the trucks at night. They don't know what to do about it. They don't know to come and speak out against it. I guess we need to maybe organize them. We're not really neighborhood organizers, so that's probably our fault. And some of them have, lives. They have little kids and they have other battles that they're fighting, like trucks flying down the road and trees getting cut and a lot of other things. So, but if you would like for January 10th, I can try to encourage some of them to show up and speak out if that would help.
Thank you.
Karina,
Mr. Chair, if I could, please.
just 1 second, Bill, please.
Sure.
Karina, if it's okay with you, could we suggest to Mr. Farrington, when he speaks to the neighbors, and if they have need for knowledge of the process, to just contact you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you have, you're kind of like the ground zero for information on all the projects in town under
Okay.
site plan. So
My email
if
is on the planning website, and you can just call the planning office as well. I usually try to answer the phone. If not, I'll get a message and I'll return the call.
thanks, Karina. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, because I've suggested this before, and it suggested it to Deb, Mr. Farrington's wife. And Jim, I know he did this before to you, but if you hear the trucks at a particular time, if you could email Jim Bourne and myself, and Deb's got both our emails, so that we know the time that this is occurring, so we could have somebody look in the yard and determine what's going on there. Because that helps us determine if there is an issue and where it's coming from and if it can be addressed. And I had offered that up to Deb, and I forget who the other abutter was when this originally started. And they would email at times, and we were able to address some of those issues. So it would be very helpful if he could do that. Mr. Morris, I was actually going to suggest that maybe you guys reach out to town council. I believe it's Jay Tallerman now.
Yep.
Because I could see that we might be coming to a point down the road where there might be more heated discussion that really could be resolved better with legal opinions. Because Ken just wants to work cooperatively and do what we can here. So I'm glad to hear that you suggested that. And if there's nothing further, I will authorize Karina to release the extension and continuance.
So the extension, is it your desire to extend the approval period to the normal Friday after the next public hearing?
Actually,
Actually, I think she put it out further than that. Isn't that
And
correct,
what's-
Karina?
that's correct. So we wouldn't have to do it 2 or 3 times in between, or 2 times in between. I
So-
had moved-
You can share my screen if you want.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the date that you're requesting the extension to, Bill?
I have to close my screen up so I can see it on.
January
It's on the
28th.
form. What do you have here?
It's January 28th.
Yeah,
So-
January 28th, the hearing on the
Second.
10th
There you
and decision of the 28th.
Yeah, so it's continued to the 10th, and time to respond, for you guys to respond is January 28th.
And that's because there's a second planning board meeting scheduled on January 24th.
Exactly.
Oh, the request for continuation / extension that's on the screen now, that's what you're requesting the board to act on.
Yes,
Mr. Miller,
yeah, per Karina's request, yep, we agree to that. And it's signed, yep.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the client's request to extend the approval period, or the applicant's request to extend the approval period for major site plan approval and special permit lower impact development for Ken's Food Inc. at 325 Turnpike Road to January 28th, 2022, again, as requested by the applicant.
January
Second.
28th.
January 28th, isn't that what I said?
I seconded.
motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes?
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
So the next step would be to continue the public hearing, Mr. Mills.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we continue the public hearing for 325 Turnpike Road, Ken Food expansion, major site plan approval. And for 325 Turnpike Road, Ken's Food expansion, special permit for lid to January 10th, 2022 at 7:05 PM.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes?
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Thank you. We'll see you then.
Thank you, and everybody have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Thank
You
you very
too.
much. Next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing, 1 Pine Hill Drive, Harvard University Collections Storage Building. Major site plan approval. This public hearing is continued from November 15th, 2021, and also a continued public hearing, Harvard University Collections Storage Building Special Permit for Lower Impact Development, also continued from November 15th, 2021. We'll ask the town planner to give us the update.
All right. Get this out. Since the last public hearing on November 15th, 2021, Conservation Commission met on November 18th for their stormwater management permit. On November 29th, we received the second submission from Harvard University Planning Office, led by Diane Gray, who's in the attendees. The submission was sent to Fuss and O'Neill December 2nd, and to the planning board members and also to the town departments. I don't believe I received any comments back from the town departments. Today, I received Fuss and O'Neill's review comments of the submission. Number 2, which is plans dated November 24th, 2021, and a stormwater report that was revised to November 22nd. That brings us to this evening. I'd like to point out that the Fuss and O'Neill follow-up review letter indicated that they had no further comments, that their prior review comments had been addressed by the applicant team. However, if anything does change from tonight's meeting, that they would need to re-review it. But as at this point, they had completed their review to their satisfaction. I also received an extension request to continue the meeting to the next meeting, and then also the approval timeframe beyond that, in case we need an additional meeting. And that is also on the Dropbox for review. And that brings us to today. And I see that Diane Gray is here, and members of her team are in the attendees list. And Diane can probably, when the time comes, let us know who she would like to have elevated to panelist. Thank you.
So why don't we welcome Diane back and let you speak before we open it up to the public and the planning board. Good evening.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Chair and the planning board. Could I ask that you elevate as panelists Anthony Paprocki, William Marr, Kendall Marr Trumbull, and Matt Cody, who are our project team? They're also here. Thank you. As Karina mentioned, we were here on November 15th, and we've submitted revised plans based on the Fuss and O'Neill comments. And Tony Paprocki will walk us through those comments, and then we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I just want to add one thing. I did fail to mention that I did receive an email from Open Space Preservation Commission Chair Freddie Gillespie this afternoon, wanting to just work through some of the plantings to be native species, and that was forwarded to Diane and her team.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome, and also the planning board. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So I'll hop in here quickly and give you just a brief recap of what's changed. As Diane noted, we were here last month and we provided an introduction to our project. As some of you may recall, we're proposing, we've got an existing building at One Pine Hill Drive on the Southborough campus. We're proposing approximately a 20,000 square foot addition to that existing storage structure to create new space for unoccupied storage of records, files and papers in file boxes on shelving. As the town planner mentioned, we submitted, the week after the meeting, we submitted supplementary information to address the concerns of the board as well as your peer reviewer. These included general notes and clarifications to some of the drawings, just covering items that were discussed. The addition of dimensions on the plan were requested, primarily for parking spaces and driveways, which were requested from your peer reviewer. The addition of a photometric plan, as well as a new specification for fixture type W1, which is more in compliance with your town bylaw for exterior lighting, as well as the addition of a landscape plan, which gave a better sense of the area surrounding, did a better job of defining the intent to not take down existing trees, and called out the area that we are looking to plant. As the town planner mentioned, we did receive the peer reviewers' comments today, which noted that they had reviewed those materials and had no further comments. We also appeared before the Conservation Commission last week and received a favorable approval of our stormwater permit with that board. As Karina noted, we did also receive the note from the Open Space Committee today, noting the concern about the native grass species. Our intent here is to develop a native seed mixture which is acceptable to the town. We're very happy to work with the Open Space Committee as well as the town planner going forward to help select a seed type which is acceptable to the town. We would certainly be open to having this as a condition of our decision, which would be finalized prior to any seeding activity, should the project go forward and should you choose to grant our special permit. With that, I can go in more detail about the plans, but we trust that we've addressed your comments to date. We're hopeful that you'll act favorably on our petition. And with that, I'll put it back to the board for any questions or any clarifications we can provide on our materials.
Very good. Excellent. This is the way it should go. Submit a design, have it peer reviewed, make some minor adjustments and be pretty much ready to move on. So I'll open it up to the board. Depending on how that goes, the time between now and January 10th may be used to develop a decision document that would outline and record the process of site plan and lower impact development, and then list any waiver requests, list any conditions, and hopefully and quite possibly be ready for the public hearing to be closed on January 10th and for the board to take a vote. But let's see how it goes tonight. Mr. Mills.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to state that I did watch the last meeting on YouTube, filled out the Mullins form so I can participate in this. I know it was stated earlier, but I don't know if everyone was on when that was stated. So Anthony, I think the first thing I didn't catch on the last meeting was if you can go like a couple slides back, I think to a larger view of the actual the site. The gray areas, I think you mentioned that those are existing footprints or something, right? What are those?
So on this, the darker gray, notably the book
It's
deposit.
not those. It's the lighter gray, I think, in the middle.
These here. These are existing slabs which were former buildings which have been demolished. They are not currently in use. They're literally just a concrete slab on the site that is unused. So we've got a couple of those, these two here, and then the two buildings over here will also be slabs as they're in the process of being demolished at this point.
And no further like plans for that at this time? Like what you're gonna do, like remove them or just leave them?
That's correct. The plan, they after the demolition, which was a number of years ago, the plan was to leave them in place. There are no current plans to develop them, and any development work on those, I assume, would require your board's approval as well as a permit from the town.
Okay. And I can just say I appreciate you switching away from that wall pack. I know that's always a an item that we discuss with a lot of applicants. So appreciate that. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Mr. Stein.
My only comment is I wish more proponents followed this example and were as organized and responsive and communicative. The planning board and the planning department sometimes is characterized by some as being an obstacle or unfair to proponents. We review and approve good submissions, and submissions that are more problematic take longer and get the appropriate scrutiny. So I want to thank this proponent for their great work.
Thank you, Mrs. Luttrell.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to echo the thanks for my other board members. I would be in favor of a condition on the approval for the biodiverse lawn mix to be of native species, because what's in there now is not native species. And the one question, what are the hours for the lights? Are they on 24/7 or do they go off at night?
I believe the intent is that they are on 24/7. Matt Cody is on the call. Perhaps Matt, you can address that.
You know, I would think that some of them, just for security purposes, would be on 24/7. But we can look at that and see how many of them need to be on. Some of them may just need to be on for, you know, when people are there during working hours.
Good. The less light at night, the better. That's all I have. Thank you very much again.
Mimi, the grass mix, do we have anything like that now that you know of? at other sites?
That's planted and growing. We've permitted grass mix on 156 Northborough Road, but it hasn't been installed as permitted.
The reason I ask is once in a while, when working with a quality cooperative, environmentally friendly proponent, we come up with something that is a great idea and that we then refer other project proponents to those good ideas. Is this possibly one that, if properly developed and installed and functional, would then be like the standard that we would ask the others in the future to follow?
Yeah, absolutely.
We would call it the Harvard mix.
Yes.
And then going to the lighting, if that can be resolved before January 10th, so that can be included as a condition of approval. Does the site have, I know at one time you had your own security there 24/7, but those days of that type of operation are over. What kind of security do you have there now, if any?
So the depository does have 24/7 security for the depository itself. There is no full-time security for the rest of the campus, but we do have a third-party security provider that does, I think it's 2 times per night, drive-through and building checks on the existing buildings other than the depository. And then on the weekends, I believe they are there 3 times for drive-throughs and checks of the property. And the gate is also down during the weekends and after hours, and you'll need card access to enter the gate or the property itself.
Thank you. Mrs. Houlihan, were you all done, Mimi?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Houlihan.
Yes, I echo the sentiments of my fellow board members. The memo from November 24th, where you addressed the Fuss and O'Neill comments, was really well, very clear, very communicative, and very easy to follow. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate the change in the lighting fixtures, and as you were able to kind of cite our new bylaw. So very much appreciate that you've complied with those components. My only stipulation, like Mimi, I think is really just understanding if we can eliminate a 24/7 and even just be an motion activated or something during certain hours of the night, that would be appreciated. But if there is an opportunity for you to clarify that, but I am supportive of the native plantings and some sort of understanding of the lighting. But I am really excited to work with a proponent like yourselves, and again, wish this was a modeled behavior for all of our proponents. So thank you.
Anything else from the public? Questions, comments? So, Karina, we have the approval period for the site plan is December 25th, and for the lid is January 24th. Did I miss this? Is there a request for a, I think you told me there is, for an extension of the approval period?
Karina, you're on mute.
I'm babbling over here. Yes, there is an extension request in the Dropbox. If
Do you
you'd
have
like
that,
to-
Sarah? Can you put it up?
Marty's going to share it for us.
So Diane, is it your desire to have the planning board act on that request tonight?
Yes, thank you.
That's correct. It's continue the public hearing to January 10th and extend the deadline to January 28th
For
for
both?
action. Yeah. So it may we may not need that long, but it's safe to have the action on the 28th. Doesn't hurt anything. to
No, and
include-
especially in the wintertime with, we have a problem with, power outages or whatever. So, okay, we have this on the screen. I'll entertain a motion, Mr. Mills.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we extend the approval period for Harvard University, 1 Pine Hill Drive, major site plan approval, special permit, and the special permit lower impact development to January 28th, 2022, as requested by the applicant.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone from the public? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Terrell, yeah.
And yes.
So now that the approval period has been extended, we're able to continue the public hearing to January 10th.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we continue the public hearing for 1 Pine Hill Drive, Harvard University Collection Storage Building, major site plan approval, and also extend the special permit for the lid for 1 Pine Hill Road Drive, Harvard University Collection Storage Unit to January 10th, 2022 at 7:15 p.m.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Terrell, yeah.
Lehan, yes.
We'll see you next year.
Thank you, everyone.
you.
We'll see you in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Okay, next item on the agenda is an approval not required, 44 Oregon Road. I asked the town planner to go over this one with us and hopefully get it on the screen.
All right, the planning department received an application for 40 and for A&R approval not required, Form A, for the property at 44 Oregon Road, owned by the Morans. The surveyor of record is Jarvis Land Survey. Is that the one? Let me just make sure. No, I'm sorry. It's RJP Construction Engineering, Mr. Bob Parenti. I believe he may be in the attendees list. Let's see. Yes, see Robert Parenti? Sarah, in the attendees
Yep,
list.
I'm getting him. He should be coming over shortly.
Thanks.
Yep.
So this is properties essentially taking one lot and dividing it into two. And I'll let Mr. Parenti give you more details. I reviewed this plan. The surveyor made some adjustments and some revisions in order to make the plan complete. He was very helpful and he provided new plans and everything appeared to check out. There was proper frontage on a way. And that's what I have done. I think the surveyor can give more detail if he's there.
He
Bob, you
is
have
with
to-
us.
Yeah.
Can
There
you
he
hear me
is.
now?
Yeah.
I just had to unmute. Sorry about that. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Bob Parenti, presenting this plan for Martin and Elizabeth Moran of 44 Oregon Road. They currently live in the house at 44 Oregon Road. And their desire is to separate Lot 5 away from the house, so to create a new house lot with the existing frontage. as they're looking to down the road a little bit in order to downsize and possibly move into the farmhouse, which is at 42 Oregon Road. So the plan shows, I've been working on this property since 1989 when we started the survey of all the various lots. There have been a number of lots created down Oregon Road over the years. One of the planning board regulations requires showing the walls. So there's an interior wall which depicts an old abandoned and discontinued way, which cuts through both lots 5B and lot 5A. There's an existing stone wall at the back of the property where the town of Southborough abuts to the north.
Further up in the rear of the property.
Yeah, the rear of the property, correct. Yep.
Yeah, to the left. Yeah, right there.
So basically we have resurveyed the property and started from the back of the stone wall at the town of Southborough land. And actually we came out and located one of the original drill holes out front at the corner of the abutter at number 48 Oregon Road. And just so the people know what they're purchasing, we put an iron pin at the front corner of between the division between the two lots, and then another iron pin up opposite the pool shed on the existing house lot.
Yeah, go down that
Just so
line.
that-
There's a-
Does my arrow show up, Karina, or is that your arrow?
I
Okay,
think
yep,
that's,
right there, yep.
Yep.
Yes, I guess it's your cursor that's controlling that. Yeah, I thought it might have been mine.
Yep.
Karina asked for the, town planner asked for the zoning requirements, the plan references, and also a description. There's a note down to the left of the title block describing the purpose of the plan. Is to divide lot 5, which is currently known as 44 Oregon Road, into 2 new lots. There is an existing easement, driveway easement that's being used, that was granted to number 48 Oregon Road, which used to be Marty's sister, Mary Ann Cole. The access in front of 48 Oregon Road is very steep, so that back, I forget when the house was built, maybe 2000 or 1998. When that house was built, the driveway, it was decided that there would be an easement for the Coles to access their driveway. It kind of, they used the driveway for many years, but the actual easement wasn't created until right before they were going to sell, because I think it was never formally made an easement. So I had prepared that plan back probably around 2015 or 2016, which is what that deed reference goes to. That's really the summary of the plan. I guess I would open up to any questions from the board.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mills, questions, comments?
I have no questions.
Mr. Stein?
There's, am I mistaken, Karina, about the need for a 15-foot setback?
That would be for the house. What you see there is the shed and a pool. So the house on number 44 on lot 5B.
So the setback doesn't apply to a structure on the lot?
If anything, I think it's 10 feet. And
It's
Bob,
10
you can
feet.
yeah, it's
Thank you.
in,
It's 10 feet.
okay.
Thank you. That's it.
Mrs. Luttrell?
Good evening. In the interest of full disclosure, I live on Oregon Road, but I'm not a abutter to these parcels. They're over 1,700 feet from my property. I have no questions. I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Houlihan?
have no questions. Thank you.
Anybody from the public, questions or comments? Seeing none, we would be at the point of entertaining a motion to endorse this A&R.
Chair, I make a motion that the planning board endorse the A&R for 44 Oregon Road as presented by the applicant.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes?
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
So what happens is the plans will be in the town planner's office, and the 5 planning board members will make arrangements to physically go there and endorse the plans and the Form 1. And then the town planner will notify you, Mr. Parente, that they're ready.
Very good. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, Karina, I just want to get in there before Marnie.
Okay.
I'll wear a mask.
I can always bring it
Thank
by
you all.
Marnie.
Thank
Pass
you.
it through the door.
Good to
Next
see you
item
all
on the-
again.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is an approval not required, 17 Granule Road. Well, that's the town planner to go over this one.
All right, 17 Granwell. Planning office received an application for approval not required, Form A, from the applicant Judith Christensen. The person who was actually coordinating with me was Jim Benincasa, who you've met previously on a prior A&R. I believe he's interested in purchasing the lot that's going to be created out of off of this existing lot. I just want to see if somebody's here from them. I believe John Grenier is in the attendees list. I recognize his name. Okay. Jarvis Land
promoted
Survey
him.
was the surveyor of record. Again, this is one lot at 17 Granuel that they would like to divide into 2. I received the plan. The surveyor made some minor revisions to make sure everything was in order and on the plan. And then I filed it with the town clerk, and that's what I have. If John Grenier, John Grenier, who is with Jarvis Land Survey, I believe, is
Yep,
here to
he's
also.
promoted.
Okay.
John, you all set?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great,
There you
thank
are.
you.
Yes, no, I'm an engineer, and I work with Mr. Benincasa as well. So
Okay.
he asked me to attend, and if there were any questions to address them. But just overall, what the planner said was correct. The existing owner at 17 Granuel is they're selling their house, and what we're proposing to do is to subdivide it into a second lot that would actually have frontage on Burnett Road. And the segmentation of the lot, there is a wetland that bisects the lot. So pretty much we're cutting it right down the middle. There's plenty of upland located on what's shown as Lot 2 that again would have frontage on Burnett Road. So that's really the long and short of it. One item that was requested for Jarvis to add to the plans was the location of the existing septic for the existing house at 17 Granuel, which that is currently shown on the front portion between the house and Granuel. So there's plenty of separation, obviously, between the existing system on number 17 and the newly created lot. So that's really a long and short of it. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to address them the best I can.
Thank you. Mr. Mills,
No questions.
Mr. Stein,
I have no questions.
Mrs. Latrell,
No questions.
Mrs. Houlihan.
No questions. Thank you.
I have no, I have no questions. Mr. Mills,
I make a motion that we approve the A&R request by the applicant for 17 Granular Road as presented.
Second.
motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Okay, good, very good, John.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the year.
You too. Thanks again.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a discussion item, public shade tree removal policy and tree bylaw proposal. Karina,
Coming. Okay. Just grab my folder. So if you recall at in late fall, early winter of 2020, Mimi and I, Mark Purple, prior town council, Karen Galligan, Sam Stivers, were on a group of people who were tasked to come up with a public shade tree policy. That was drafted. It remains in draft status at this time. One of the things was the difference between consolidated public hearings with the tree warden for scenic roads or independent. And the planning board at the time asked me to provide a letter to the Board of Selectmen indicating that the planning board was in favor of joint public hearings with the tree warden for any trees that are proposed to be removed off of scenic roads. So as things kind of carry on, we received information from Sam Stivers a couple months ago, who had formulated a little bit of a revised flow chart showing the process. And I asked him if, before he proceeds at the Board of Selectmen, to have the planning board have an opportunity to look at his information and to opine on it. So that's where we are. It's in the packet. It's also on the Dropbox. There's a tree trimming and removal process overview that was drafted by Sam Stivers in October 28th, 2021. And you'll notice to the right of the flow chart is where it lends itself to scenic road trees. And in this particular flow chart, it indicates that if the scenic roads are proposed to be removed, there's an arborist report provided to the planning board. The arborist is contracted with the DPW, and then the planning board holds a joint hearing with the tree warden. And then depending on the outcome of the meeting, of the public hearing, if there's no opposition and the tree is approved to be removed, it can be removed. If not, if there's opposition, then the decision would have to go to court. So there were some conflicting issues here because Mass General Law indicates that if you have a scenic road, that it should be a consolidated public hearing with the tree warden, with a typical public hearing process where you advertise for 2 Mondays. We would post, actually the tree warden is supposed to, post the public hearing, put the placard on the tree or trees, and then attend a planning board hearing jointly to determine the outcome of the request. In the interim, it's my understanding that the DPW Director Karen Galligan, as you all know, felt that the tree warden, first, it's her opinion that they shouldn't be consolidated public hearings. She would like to hold an independent tree warden hearing, and then the planning board would hold their public hearing. There are some issues with that because, the public, it's not very convenient for the public to have to attend 2 public hearings. The DPW holds their public hearings at the tree location. Planning board holds it in a location, whether it's a Zoom meeting or at the hearing hall, office, and call it room, hearing room. So there's this different approach. So as you recall, we recently went through a tree removal public hearing, and we had said that based on Mass General Law, that it should be a consolidated public hearing. Well, the tree warden, as part of the application that the applicant had provided an email to this person and said, I recommend that the trees get removed. So I had sent a legal opinion request or an email to Town Council Jay Talaman, asking him several questions about what was appropriate or not. And he had opined in an email back to me that the Scenic Road tree hearings should be consolidated joint hearings with the tree warden and the planning board. So there is some disconnect here between what Mass General Law is and kind of the DPW's approach, differing from the planning board's approach. The other thing is that, and this is somewhat important, that there is in the state statute, it says to the effect what trees can be cut down without approval, and it's usually if it's a public safety hazard. The other thing is that typically trees would come before the planning board if they're going to be removed because of roadway widening. So during the tree policy, the public shade tree policy that we were drafting, during that process, it was our understanding, Mimi and mine, that any tree to be removed on a scenic road would default to a consolidated public hearing with the planning board and the tree warden. Other trees that are not on scenic roads are under the all trees are under the jurisdiction of the tree warden, but trees that were not on scenic roads don't come to the planning board for a public hearing. So this discussion is supposed to kind of reconfirm or any new ideas that the planning board has going forward and how they feel the process should be. Mass General Law is pretty clear about scenic road public hearings. The confusion is when we are making our own local policy for when scenic road trees come before the planning board. Is it just when there's roadway construction, roadway widening? But again, I think the idea was that it was an agreement that all scenic roads would come before the planning board. So here we are. And Mimi, if you have anything to add, Mimi's been working closely on this with me over the past year and a half. So she may have some additional points that are, can clarify what I was saying. One long sentence, sorry.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
So back in March of 2019, almost 3 years ago, we had became a tree city and adopted a tree bylaw that obligated the town to abide by Mass General Laws, Chapter 87, and the Chapter 40, 15C, which is the Scenic Road statute under Mass General Laws. And from the time that that was adopted, trees came down without hearings. So the planning board asked to have a discussion with the, excuse me, the Board of Selectmen. And from that came this working group that Karina referred to. And a year ago, we came up with the policy. Initially, the planning board, as had been the practice in the past, wanted all tree hearings to be joint hearings before the planning board. And the planning board agreed to that. We went back to the working group and there was pushback from the DPW superintendent. So we compromised that all scenic road trees would come as consolidated hearings to the planning board, but all other tree removals would be hearings before the tree warden. And trees continued to come down without hearings. So this new process that a year later, after it was agreed upon, the planning board sent a letter to the Board of Selectmen a year ago saying we supported the process. And now it has been retooled so that scenic road hearings are consolidated hearings that come before the planning board. But then if the DPW supervisor or the tree warden have an arborist report that says a tree needs to be removed, then it gets removed without a hearing, which is a violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 87. In our bylaw, the tree section, Chapter 154, which obligates us to follow Chapter 87. So what I would like to ask, since this policy doesn't seem to be going anywhere, and it's been in the works for a year and it's getting worse, and trees are continuing to come down without hearings, I would like to see if there's support from the planning board to write a tree bylaw that would go before town meeting. That would cover that would make sure that all trees, public shade trees, have the hearings as required, that scenic road hearings are joint consolidated hearings as required by law with the tree warden and the planning board, and that there's some type of planting plan for trees, because we take them down, but we don't plant any. That would cover all of those areas that are of great importance to myself, and I know a lot of other people in town. Thank you.
Mimi, this tree bylaw, do you know if other towns have similar?
Many other towns do.
So whether or not they're a tree city is more of a it's program, but if it's a bylaw, then it's required. It's a requirement. So this bylaw would be the result of some research into how other towns do it, and a draft would then be proposed.
Mm-hmm. I could bring it to draft for the next planning board meeting if you'd like. There are a lot of other towns that have tree bylaws.
Let's see if the planning board is in favor of that action. I am.
So, Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Oh yeah, this is a discussion. We can open it up. Yep.
So, don't get me wrong, Mimi, I'm frustrated that the trees are coming down too. So how is the bylaw going to be different from what we've already adopted with Tree USA, where they're supposed to have these hearings and everything? Like, what's the determining? Like, it seems like we're just not following, or not we, but someone's just not following the rules that are already supposed to be followed. And how's the bylaw going to make it better?
Well, for one thing, it would clarify. There is an exception to public hearings if trees let me see. If they obstruct, hinder, or incommode, then they don't need to come before a public hearing, but there's a very wide definition of that used in town. And that would, so a lot of trees are taken down without hearings because they're deemed to be dangerous. And the way the Mass General Law reads, it's in the present tense that they obstruct, hinder, or incommode at that time, not that it may happen in 50 years. So it would tighten up a lot of those loopholes that have trees have been falling through for the past, I don't know how many years.
So as an example then, right? And I appreciate you helping me through this. Like from the last meeting for Lover's Lane, since I just listened to it the other day, where the gentleman was showing there was a 5-inch hole in it and stuff like that. It was deemed that it was not going to survive and everything. That could be an example of where the tree warden could say, okay, it's just going to come down. It's could be a hazard, and they take it down in today's environment. And where it sounds like in the new bylaw, it could state it would already have to have like branches down or half across the road or split in half across power lines before they say, okay, you can just take that down without a bylaw, without a hearing. Is that right? And I'm not trying to hold you to anything, but is that what I'm kind of hearing?
Yes, it should pose a present hazard.
Okay. No, I'm in favor of them.
How about Jesse?
Well, I support Mimi's idea because I would like to see this discussed openly at town meeting. To be honest, I don't fully understand the answer to Mr. Mills's question, because it seems like the Department of Public Works ultimately has been granted authority by the Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen is the oversight of the DPW, not us. And if the DPW says a tree is dangerous, they can chop it down. And I think that it's going to be interesting to have this aired out at town meeting, and hopefully the superintendent of Public Works will explain their actions, because to me, it's pretty clear that the accountability just hasn't been there. That the Board of Selectmen has too many other things to worry about, or what have you. They haven't been able to, hold the Public Works Department accountable when it comes to tree removal. So, absolutely, thank you, Ms. Luttrell, for your work on this, and fully support moving forward.
And Marnie?
Yeah, so thanks for your comments, Mr. Stein. I agree. I think it needs to be discussed at town meeting. But having understood kind of the process with doing this, Mimi, one of my guidance, and I'm happy to help support you if you need some help, is just thinking about if there is an injustice committed, who actually, like, what is the retribution, and who is the authority for which to, what happens then? And who handles that challenge? Obviously, we've had no way to handle it now. We know there's some things that have not been appropriate in the town. So like when it does, I think we need to have an avenue on how that's handled. But I would be in full support, and I'm happy to toss my hat in for some email iteration or working on helping you make it that draft.
Thank you.
So going back to Jesse, you brought up a good point, and this would lean back over to Mimi. So if you've looked into other towns' bylaws, like we always do when we're proposing something that we think other towns already do a good job with. Some of them we find are multiple pages and way too much detail or hard to understand, and others are so simple that you can't really enforce them. So the ones, we certainly trust that what would probably work here, but be able to say, this is a bylaw or pieces of a bylaw from us, and then whatever town it is, and our discussions with their DPW or their tree warden works great. It works great. Everybody's pulling in the same direction, or it's totally ignored, or somewhere in the middle. So that's the type of thing I think that would help with Mr. Stein's concerns, all of our concerns, that it's not just a bylaw, that it's got to be something that actually works in other towns. And that's usually what puts it over the top when it comes to town meeting. If we can show something is good and this is how it actually works in other towns, then people feel comfortable to support it. Anything else on this?
Yes, two things. I just want to point out that Mimi and I will be meeting with Town Council Jay Talaman and Karen Galligan and Lisa Braccio on Wednesday. Town Council has regular townhouse hours this coming Wednesday. And Mark Purple made an arrangement for us to be able to meet with him for half hour or so after that time frame, so we can get some more input and feedback from Town Council at that point as well, which should be helpful. And then we do have some public hands raised too, Don, when the time comes.
Oh, good. I indicated to Karina that, Mimi, you're going to be there with Town Council, and I'm quite sure that I'll be able to attend that also. So if there's a third, we just have to make sure we don't have a quorum that shows up on Wednesday afternoon. So if somebody else wants to attend, just let Karina know and we'll decide who will join Mimi. Let's go to the public.
Yeah, and just so you know, the deadline to post that agenda would have already happened.
Right.
To be 48. So maybe the three of us can provide feedback to the other members at the next meeting or an interim, an update.
Okay, we got three thumbs up. I'll try to attend. Open to the public.
Sam Stivers is here, and he had his hand raised first. I'm going to let him speak. Sam, you all set?
Great, thanks.
Selectman Stivers, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to follow up on the conversation. I absolutely share Ms. Luttrell's frustration that I, as the designee for the Board of Selectmen, haven't been able to actually get this thing to the finish line in the last year and a half or so. I've thought on a couple of occasions that we've had agreement on this, and that has not been the case. But I have recently had a conversation with Ms. Galligan that I debriefed the town planner on, and I think there may be a path to the finish line here, at least for the scenic roads part of it, that I wanted to be sure that you folks had on the table for consideration. I don't know if Ms. Galligan is in the audience. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I have again had conversation with her. Is she here tonight?
No, but I did send her an agenda, and Lisa as well, just so they'd be in the know.
I saw that. Let me, not to put words in Ms. Galligan's mouth, but I'll tell you what I heard from her recently, and I passed along to Karina. Karen indicated that she could be comfortable with the planning board handling the entire process for scenic roads. So any tree on a scenic road that was potential for removal. If the planning board was willing to handle that process in terms of advertising, posting the hearing as a joint hearing, and town council has opined to me in one of these office hours conversations that if the tree warden does not choose to attend a joint hearing, that's not a violation of law as long as the thing is posted appropriately. If the planning board is willing to do that for scenic road trees, Ms. Galligan said she is okay with that approach. And the issue there, as Karina has pointed out to me, is that that means that town planner or town planning department staff would be responsible for the advertising and posting of the hearings and covering the cost of that as well in terms of advertising, which is a budget implication. But again, if that's something that the planning board could be comfortable with, I think that could actually handle the problem in terms of scenic roads. And, again, Galligan would have to certainly sign off on that one, but that's what I believe I heard from her recently. That still leaves a number of issues relative to non-scenic roads. And as Ms. Luttrell commented, there's broad latitude in terms of what is required for a hazard or immediate danger for a tree. And I think Ms. Galligan's view that she would like to have a list of inventory of trees that need to come down that have been reviewed by an arborist. And if the arborist says that it should come down, then she wants to be able to do that as her staffing and budget permits without hearings for trees that, again, have been assessed by an arborist and recommended for removal. But that's another issue on the non-scenic side. But if planning board is comfortable with taking responsibility of scenic roads, it would seem to me that that's worth investigating here as a next step. As a sidebar issue, I actually would be supportive of a tree bylaw to clarify these things. I think that could be helpful, but that's, again, a little longer term issue than maybe we have to do right now. So that's sort of where I am. And if folks are interested in that, I would be glad to continue to pursue that with Ms. Galligan.
Don, may I add something? You're muted, Don.
Hey, I'm looking at the agenda, and the door is open for the planning board to say that the planning department is willing to take on that, public hearing process, advertising and all that. But I'm not sure if our agenda item as written, if that goes beyond the agenda for tonight to actually take a vote to take that on. So maybe we'll put that on our next agenda to see if the planning board wants to do that. And that would give the town planner an opportunity to look at the budget to see if what the impact would be if we had to advertise 200 hearings a year, how expensive that would be with our proposed budget. Go ahead, Karina.
Don, could I also reinforce that it would be important if the planning board does decide to pursue that direction without a vote, presumably here, just to loop back to Ms. Galligan and make sure that that's what she thought she told me, because I have been a little surprised in the past on some of this. So I think it's very important to make sure everybody's still on the same path with this. So as you do that, you or I would be happy to connect with her again to confirm that that's something that she is comfortable with.
So do you agree that it's not on the agenda tonight to take that vote?
I'm not the lawyer, but I think that would be prudent not to take a vote and just an indication of interest, I guess, and then we can move forward from there if you decide that it is something that you want to pursue.
So why don't we reserve the next 10 seconds for any planning board members to object to that approach without taking a vote. If the board remains silent for the next 10 seconds, then I think that would be an indication. Starting, your time
Not
starts.
silent. I have one issue that we're working on a policy, which unless it's adopted by the tree warden, it does not have the teeth of a bylaw. And with all the changes in discrepancies between what's agreed on and what the DPW superintendent pushes back on, I doubt that it's going to be adopted by the tree warden.
I also want to point out, just to piggyback that so it doesn't get lost in the weeds here, so to speak, that I did ask town council for an opinion on some questions. And he did provide me and Mark and Karen response that said the statutes, when read together, make consolidation of the hearings mandatory. If for some reason that doesn't happen, then I would suggest that either a new consolidated hearing or whatever. But then the statute says that the hearing under Chapter 87 is before the tree warden. And that means that either the tree warden or the duly authorized designee should be in attendance. So I can recirculate that email to planning board members and to Sam and to Karen as part of the conversation. Because he is saying that tree warden attendance is required, even if the planning board handles all of it. That's it.
That's good, Karina, because that's not what I thought I heard from Mr. Tallerman. So it would be good to confirm that as well. So I did ask him that specific question. His comment, I thought, was tree warden does not have to attend, but he may have changed his mind or I may have misheard him. So it'd be good to make sure everybody's on the same page with that.
Yeah, what happened is we got an opinion during a scenic road tree removal that I had asked Council Tallerman about, and that's when he responded after he had spoken with you and Karen.
Okay, thanks.
Marnie, did you have your hands up?
I did. I also wanted to say that I think a town bylaw has a little bit more teeth to it. And I think that we need more people, and there are people that are concerned about the scenic road and what's going on with trees being removed. My only other comment was, I guess it's for the Board of Selectmen, but I thought our Board of Selectmen oversee the DPW. So it's within their jurisdiction to mandate that happen. But that's just a sidebar comment. So I think we stick with a bylaw personally.
I also am concerned like what the process would be to like post on a tree and identify a tree to be, whether it needs to be have a hearing or not. I don't see us having Karina drive around every scenic road on a regular basis to identify trees or anything. I don't know if that's what the process is. I mean, I think DPW is doing it already for various activities that they're doing and probably identify them that way. But I just want to protect Karina a little bit for what it could entail if we take that on. So I wouldn't be in favor of that without knowing what the full process was and if she had the capability to take that on.
Thanks. And I think there may be qualifications as a tree warden. There's certain things you have to have based on your population with like a 10,000 person threshold. And we might just be over that threshold. I'm not sure.
We are over that threshold, and the DPW position is that our tree warden does meet those qualifications. I think there is some differing opinion on that one from others, but that is DPW's position on it.
Well, to me, what I'm hearing is the most important thing is that those in authority, those in the process, need to all start pulling in the same direction. And what's the direction? The direction is what the people want. If the people want all the trees cut down on all the streets, they should speak up and say, we want all the trees cut down on all the streets. Or if they want to preserve as many trees and start planting more trees and keeping the town streetscapes with trees, then they should speak. They'll have an opportunity to speak up, and those of us who are appointed or elected should listen to that and try to accommodate the desires of the townspeople. Was there anyone else from the public?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Kevin Barrington would like to speak one more time. You all set?
Hi, this is actually Debbie Demiria, Kevin's wife, for the CBA, but speaking as a private citizen. I have a question about being a Tree City USA. In the research that I've done, there's 4 essential elements. And one of them is having a qualified tree warden.
Yes.
And I appreciate that you mentioned the population growth that we've hit over 10,000. There's quite a lot written about tree wardens. And, you know, once your population growth gets to 10,000, you have an additional section under Mass General Law. And it's just widely recognized that the tree warden should be a qualified arborist with supervisory experience and credentialed. And I think if we had a credentialed arborist, we wouldn't have the need to be hiring arborists from outside the town, because I'm not sure that you know, they might be qualified outside the town also, but they may not have the town's best interest at heart, especially when we're relying on them for making decisions about cutting down the trees. But the other pieces of being a Tree City USA, from my understanding, is that we have a declaration, proclamation of Arbor Day, that there are $2 per capita put aside in a budget. So I do want to ask you about that. And the final is that we have the formation of a tree board. And so my question to you tonight is, how are we meeting, you know, is that your understanding also? And how are we meeting those criteria, especially the $2 per capita? Because I think maybe that helps with the cost of having to advertise for quarterly tree boards or something like this, or hearings. But what about a tree board? My understanding of a tree board is that it's, you know, could be the planning board. I don't really know, but I was wanting to get your opinion on that. I think it would be a good idea, because it would ensure that not one person in town changes the look and character of the town. And my opinion is that's what's happening right now with the DPW and the tree warden that's reporting to the DPW. When I look around town and I see the trees that have been cut, especially these ones that have been topped because the DPW is trying to improve sightline and things like this, this isn't at all what people in town have voted for, either by becoming a Tree City USA or when they've shown up at the tree hearings that, you know, have been held recently. And so I would say, I think we really do need a tree board, but I am interested to hear what you have to say too.
I was, myself and the town planner did quite a bit of research on the Tree City. And in my past life, was heavily involved in Tree City at another facility, another municipality. So, but Sarah, you've been doing Tree City the last couple of years and assuring that we meet those 4 criteria, and the rules within those criteria usually say something like tree warden or authorized person appointed.
Correct.
And then the $2 per person includes the cost of removing the trees, and that's where our biggest dollar cost has always been, is to cut them down. There has been some plantings, but go ahead. If you want to go on, you're closer to it now than anyone, Sarah.
Sure, yeah. So I definitely ensured that the application gets submitted. Obviously, it's the reviewing board of Tree City who certifies us. So, everything that I've provided for the past 2 years has been reviewed and thought upon favorably, which is why we received that designation. In terms of the tree board requirement, it's either tree board or tree warden and department who, takes the lead on that. So you don't necessarily have to have a board, just that you have a designee and a department that's taking the lead. And in terms of the per capita expenditure, Don is correct when he says, it's $2 per person per capita, but that is can be spent sort of kind of however the town sees fit, or at the town's discretion. And yes, unfortunately, in most recent years, in Southborough, that has been spent on removal versus planting. So some things to think about.
I want to make sure that we don't drift too far from the agenda item. We're starting to get into a Tree City discussion, which is fine, but and it is definitely part of the discussion here with the policy. But I just don't want to get drift off into just Tree City stuff. Were you all set?
I'm all set.
Anyone else? So I guess it's agreed we will have an agenda item on January 10th to expand on this discussion. And maybe that agenda item will reflect what we'll be discussing on Wednesday with Town Council. If nothing else on that, we can move on to the next agenda item, which is other business properly before the board. Planners report. Karina.
All right. Just quickly. Things. All right, just want to bring your attention to the 2022 annual town meeting warrant article deadline. The final form needs to be into the Board of Selectmen for the first week of February, and the warrant closes January 4th, 2022. Just in talking about the tree bylaw and such, so we have to just keep that in the back of our heads. And Dawn, it's my understanding that this isn't a zoning amendment, right? This would be in the code outside of zoning, which would not require a planning board public hearing, the tree bylaw.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. And Mimi, you referenced when we did the Tree City and we created a new section in the code called trees. That's outside of
153. Yeah.
It's 53.
153.
153 outside of zoning.
It's outside of zoning, but it's it would be a code warrant article that'd have to be a public hearing for it. I think. I don't know. We'd have to look into it.
I'll have to check. Yeah, because I don't think we did one for the tree for the 153. I could be mistaken. I'll check.
So don't all placeholders for the warrant have to be in by like this week?
We already have a placeholder.
Oh, for this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
We put that in right away. It can just be a generic placeholder for now.
Marina, can you clarify that the warrant closes on January 4th?
Let me see. To end that the warrant for 2022 annual town meeting will close on January 4th, 2022. For those of you submitting placeholders, please keep in mind that the articles will need to be final form for the first week in February in order to have time for council review, printing, and posting. I received that on December 3rd from town administrator.
There is a possibility that the town meeting will be moved to later.
Okay,
Cool.
so would you like me to continue? The Southborough Center Historic District, the nomination has been voted eligible by the State Review Board. We received a letter just letting the planning board know. It had been nominated and now it's voted eligible. Then, as you know, MBTA communities is another bylaw that the town will have to be working on, and ShopC is kind of spearheading that. And they'll be providing some guidance because it's been a little bit harrowing for a lot of towns, supposedly here in December sometime. So surely by January, we'll get some guidance from the Department of Housing and Community Development on that. And that's all I have.
Any questions, comments? Next item would be the approval of the minutes, October 18th, November 1st, November 15th, December 2nd.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes from October 18th, 2021 as written.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Next minutes are November 1st.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes from November 1st, 2021 as written.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I'm looking at you, Kate. No comments? Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
2 for 2, Kate. November 15th.
So I wasn't there, but I'll still make the motion if everyone's okay with it.
Proceed.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes from November 15th, 2021 as written.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
And December 2nd.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes from December 2nd, 2021 as written.
Second, but I'm going to abstain since I wasn't there.
Anyone else want a second just for?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Abstention by Stein.
Latrell,
And yes. Nice job, Kate.
thank you.
And just before you adjourn, I forgot a major thing in my planner's report. As you all know, Colleen Stansfield was appointed to the business administrator position, and she'll be starting next Wednesday, December 22nd. So if you have a chance to stop by and say hi, welcome her, etc. And Sarah will, for now, was going to keep helping with ShopC and the master plan, facilitate those meetings and that strategic plan that we have a grant for. But we'll solidify all that as we go forward over the next week.
What a great team, really.
Thanks.
Excellent team.
Great planning board.
Congratulations, you guys.
Thanks, Sarah. And thanks for keeping up the good work.
Mr. Mills, I don't think we're going to have another meeting before Christmas. Is there a motion that you would?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that the planning board and staff have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year, and regret that we can't all be together to spread the joy.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Remember, it's important that this passes, otherwise it won't be good. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Should we all go get a glass of wine?
Water?
You mean for the Zoom?
Water.
Here's a bottle right here.
Water.
Cheers.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes.
Mills emphatically yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Mr. Mills,
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes.
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Feel
Thanks,
better,
Sarah.